This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Negotiating for speakers, speaker negotiating. And this is true with not just speaking, this is true with training and coaching and consulting, but mainly it's around speaking because speaking, everyone is so hell-bent on selling the gig. And if you're hell-bent on selling the gig, I am telling you that you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. So point number one, you're doing it wrong.
Nothing like a little truth telling today, a little truth bomb for everybody.
Why are we doing it wrong, boss? What's going on? You're doing it from a place of weakness. You're doing it from a place of kind of a vendor status. And I'm being kind there because really it's used car salesperson status. You know, what would it take to get you in the car today? How low do I have to go to get this gig? How many concessions can I make? So even before we start, Theresa French, I want to draw the line, pretty clear straight line, between two terms that some folks watching may equate as the same, and they're not the same, they're very different. One term is negotiating, which we're going to spend most of our time talking about today. And the other term is bargaining. Bargaining is bad. Negotiating is good if you do it right. And we'll talk about negotiating up and negotiating down. But bargaining is caving on price with no commensurate reduction in value.
Ooh, say that again. That was a really...
is caving on price with no commensurate reduction in value. So let's say you're a $10,000 speaker. If you're a $10,000 speaker, you might be doing gigs for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a reason, because you're getting $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 of non-financial compensation. But imagine the personal integrity that you're lacking when someone says, okay, well, how much is it? It's $10,000. Of course, we always have the value discussion before we have the price discussion. But imagine say, okay, it's $10,000. Well, we don't have $10,000. We only have $6,000. Okay, you know what? I'll do it for $6,000. What's that buyer thinking right there? What's going through that buyer's mind when you come in with 10, they go, all we have is $6,000, and the speaker says, okay.
What just happened? What's broke? Why'd he cave so quick?
Is he ripping off everybody? And why did he try and overcharge me by $4,000? Right? So
is that really his price? Yeah.
That reflects badly on all other aspects of your business. It reflects badly on your personal integrity. It reflects badly on your topic. It reflects badly on how good of a speaker are you really if you're willing to cave like a cheap card table. So let's talk about, Theresa, your favorite topic, which is number 2, negotiating does not mean less. Sometimes it means something different.
Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, talking about outcomes and value. And, I think it's easy to see with all the clients that we've served over the course of the last couple of years, how easy it is to want the gig so bad, to just basically do what you just said, get on stage. And I think it comes down to really evaluating, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get stage time for the sake of stage time and applause and all that wonderful thing, all of those things that are guided by ego? Or are you trying to solve problems for your clients? Are you really trying to convey your thought leadership to make a difference in the organizations that you're working with and speaking for? So when it comes to negotiating down versus negotiating up and selling, what will be of greater service to your client? Adding more would probably be of better service, justify fee, and see that, and they would see value much more quickly, much more easily, and be willing to meet you at your fee that you're asking. So it's not a matter of saying, hey, I'll do it for anything just to get stage time. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of speakers that do that. They don't realize that that's hurting them, but it is. And it's keeping them broke. And so if you are truly invested in the value for your client, figure out a halfway between point that, like you said, adjust the value, adjust what you're bringing, adjust the outcomes they're going to get. If a one-hit wonder is all that you're looking for, that's all you're going to get is a one-hit wonder, and you're back on the hamster wheel, gigging to gigging to gigging. And it's not a scalable business. It's not reliable or sustainable. And quite honestly, you'll stay broke. So the negotiating up versus negotiating down has everything to do with the value that you're bringing. And sometimes that means adding services and still sticking with your price, but adding a service, adding a follow-up coaching, adding a training, adding a breakout session, adding a book signing, adding books, whatever those things are. Command your price and stick with it and figure out what's best for the client to mediate the value.
And that brings us to our third point, which is out of all those things Theresa just mentioned, you need to have on an index card or a post-it note or a big poster in your office, wherever you want to put this thing, your upsell menu. So when we say negotiate, you come in and, okay, I'm a $5,000 keynote speaker, but I'm looking at these things on my wall that I might be getting a $20,000 gig because I'm not looking to pitch the speech. I'm looking to solve the problem. We'll talk about that later as well. But what's on your upsell menu? And I want to dig into what Theresa just said, because each of these things could add thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to every gig. And more importantly, add tremendous value to every client that you're in front of. Every client that you're in front of. So this isn't about let's get greedy, let's sell them a whole bunch of crap they don't need. That's let's really serve the client to the very best and fullest that we can. Yes. So Theresa, you mentioned, for example, maybe a webinar after the event. Why is a webinar valuable? When you're talking to the meeting planner and you're negotiating, one of the key questions that we teach our clients to say all the time is, hey, Susan, what do you have planned for ongoing repetition, reinforcement, and application after the plan is over? And most people will answer one of two ways. Most buyers will answer one of two ways. If they're honest, they'll be like, I don't know. A more honest answer is nothing. And then you ask, well, how long would you like the impact of our program to last?
Absolutely.
And stock answers there as well. One is forever, which is kind of funny. Yeah, Theresa, we want you to come and speak. We want your impact to be forever with this audience after a 1-hour keynote. Okay. Or they'll say, well, at least until next year's conference. So it's either forever or 12 months. And you guys know how this is. A week later, they forgot most of your points. 2 weeks later, they forgot your name. 3 weeks later, they forgot they even went to an event, let alone repetition, reinforcement, application to increase member value and extend the impact of your program. Now, whether you sell that webinar or coaching or consulting via email or whatever you sell, you're not selling the thing. What you're selling is extending the value of the program. This could be a seminar. This could be a keynote. This could be a training day. This could be a board facilitation. This could be a CEO roundtable group that you're visiting. What can you do to extend the value of the program? Some people say, oh, I don't like upselling. I don't like upselling. I don't like cross-selling. I feel that's manipulative. I'm feeling greedy. Well, first of all, dude, get some sales training. Just get some sales training. Get over that. Even if you feel that way, I think you'll feel much better if you say, okay, I'm not upselling. I'm not doing this in a self-centered way. I'm doing this to extend the value of my program.
It's almost like implementation insurance, that what you hear on stage, what you hear in 60 minutes, implementation insurance. We're going to take real skills transfer. These are not just good thoughts and good philosophies and just good things we hear from stage, delivered amazingly, delivered it with an engaging speaker. Awesome. I leave that room and I go back to my desk wherever I work and it's back to status quo. And I think, what was that thing he said? And because there's 2 points I want to make here. First of all, because you've offered to have engagement beyond the event, that is that repetition that breeds results. Now, the other thing I think we all need to be really, really aware of, most meeting planners, because they are in the midst of planning so many different moving parts of any one event, oftentimes they've not stopped to think about wait a minute, what could be beyond that? What could we do? So just the mere suggestion indicates that you are an expert truly invested in their clients, those people that are sitting in the seats. You really do want the greatest level of value to come to those people. Now, a meeting planner is in charge of this room of people that need to come back to next year's conference, that need to add more memberships to their association or their group, or it's skills transfer. They need it applied on the job. Whatever that is, that caretaker, so to speak, the meeting planner who's in charge of that information that's going to be conveyed is also in charge for actual results and outcomes. So how can you make sure that happens so that meeting planner, that organizer, that decision maker looks like a rock star? Because you've made the suggestion beyond their busy, crazy, I got to get this done, this done, this done right now. They're not thinking ahead necessarily because they're so mired down in the details of getting the meeting pulled together. So you coming in with that fresh perspective and saying, you know what if we just went a little further? What if we had a webinar? I could take this, we could do some workbooks, worksheets, whatever, and it extends and it gets those skills in place and implemented. So it's all about the value for your client, period.
People come through our mentorship and then we're always coming up with new stuff. And so the folks that are on our webinars, the folks that are on Facebook Lives, about 25% of them are past clients who are just keeping up and writing more notes and getting more ideas and going further and faster in their business. So that's fantastic. That's what we want for our clients. That's what we want for our prospects, our community, our friends, all of you guys. So the bottom line is, done right, when you have a negotiating menu, you're not only negotiating down, you're also negotiating up, and you will end up with more. You will end up with more. So let me just tell you a very quick story. And I've got my phone here. We're doing a live ammo. This is like live real-time stuff that just happened this week. What we're talking about on today's show is how one of our clients went from and she's like a $10,000 speaker, by the way. $10,000 speaker. She was doing some below market rate work for a prospect because it was a profit-rich, lead-rich environment, target-rich, I should say, environment. So she was doing these $2,500 gigs, but she was also hoping to get business on the back end. Rather than get business on the back end, the front end client that was first talking to her about, hey, can you do a series of these programs for $2,500? They said, we want you to come to Europe. We want you to do 10 programs, and we want you to give our clients 10 months of on-call consulting. Okay? 10 months of on-call consulting at $10,000 a month, series of 4 to 6 events. It's at least going to be a $140,000 deal. It might get to $200K, but it's $140,000. Let me play you the voicemail message. Theresa, should I play the voicemail message?
Oh, please play the voicemail message.
We're going to play the voicemail message. This ripped from the headlines. Negotiating smart. I hope I don't screw this up. I'll put this right in front of the microphone. Bear with me. This is going to be good. Speakerphone. All right, check this out. Straight from the trenches.
David, hi. It's Susan Linder. No need to call me back. I just wanted to let you know that my meeting with the Swedish American Chamber turned into, from one group of startups, they decided they want a year of Susan Linder. And they are doing 10 months of individual startup meetings with me and introducing me to their top 10 corporate members, including Volvo, IKEA, and APCO. So this wound up being my most profitable meeting of the year, and I'm kicking it off at their annual gala party next Friday, for which I'm now writing the keynote. So just wanted to fill you in after our call today. 2019 is going to be the year of Susan Linder at the Swedish Chamber. I'm floating. Anyway, talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.
Susan,
how often do you want to be floating?
You think you're floating? You think you're floating? We're like, whoa, yes, what I'm talking about, girlfriend. Yes. This is the kind of client success that gives us the biggest freaking jollies
oh my gosh
in your life.
You guys have no idea. David, but and she's done this now several times in the last 4 or 5 weeks. We're talking 40,000, 90,000, now 140,000. Tell them what she shared with us and how she did it. What else? Talk about that conversation.
Point, right? That is totally the whole point, is that this was about asking and probing and not pitching the speech, or not saying, hey, I'm doing these gigs for $2,500 below my market rate, like 75% below my market rate. Can we do more of these $2,500 gigs? She asked the magic negotiating question. And what else? You have that problem, and what else? Pick it up from
What else is,
and what else?
yeah, it's so simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate this thing. It's called what else is going on in the organization? And what about this? And what about that? Oh, that's interesting. And follow-up questions. And well, what does that mean for the organization? Well, who's helping them? Okay, got it. Now, what about that? Oh, that's interesting. So would it be advantageous if they had a solution here, here, and here? Okay. All right. Well, I think that's something we could work on. And then all of a sudden the client's going, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that was even on the table to be discussed. And it has to come out. And it's not, oh, you have those problems. Let me tell you all the things that I can do to solve your problems. Da, 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 da. Look at my thing. Look at my thing. Here's a program sheet. Blah, blah, blah. No, inquiry, curiosity. We tell our clients all the time, come over to my breakout room. I talk about sales. I say, curiosity of a 2-year-old, because there's the questions. Why? Why that? What about this? What about this? Oh, I didn't know that. And you know what? Sometimes you do know. The bottom line is you need to let them know you're interested and you're not making assumptions. You truly are dialed into their situation. And that's exactly what Susan did. What's going on in your organization? I know the front end, but what else? I want to know more, because there has to be more to this story. And there was $140,000 worth more. And I have a distinct feeling that's going to increase over the course of the next year.
So everyone needs the awesome negotiating question. And what else? The reason I say it's awesome, AWE. AWE spells the word awe. And this is your magic question. And what else? And my buddy Linda Swindling,
Absolutely,
is here, and she has a fantastic book called Ask Outrageously. The more you ask, the more you get. And the more you ask out of curiosity to help and serve, not to pitch and peddle, but to really help and serve. That's what took our client Susan from a $2,500 below market rate gig to a $140,000 year-end biggest contract of the year, huge celebration. And you guys heard the voicemail. I'm just going to play that through the rest of the year. I'm just going to have that on, I'm going to have that be my ringtone. I'm going to have that. I'm just going to go crazy. We're going to export that. We're going to have we're going to have a remix. Just like that. And then
just like that,
the message will be in between there.
Now, if people aren't sure about what their service model is or what upsells or cross-sells they have or any of that, where should they go to find out some more information, have a conversation?
I'm glad you asked. So if you want a Susan Scale success story, I'm going to encourage you, even though you might be saying, oh, it's the holidays, it's getting in November, December, things are slow. You know what? We still want to talk to you. We still want to help you. The team is standing by. It's doitmarketing.com/call. Part of the problem that when we get folks on these calls, A, they don't know what to charge, and their idea of negotiating is always out of a poverty mindset or a less than mindset. And no one thinks that with your current business, with your current lead flow, if your lead flow is any good at all, you could be making a lot more revenue by serving on a higher and deeper level with the people that you're already talking to. So you might not be having the right level of conversation. You might not have the right packaging or messaging or articulation or distinction. We're going to look at all of that. So when you book one of these confidential speaker strategy sessions that are free, by the way, zero cost, doitmarketing.com/call, we will talk to you about all of those elements, because once those are dialed in, your negotiating power goes up by a factor of 10. If the packaging, the messaging, the value prop, the outcomes are not clear, you're going to be a commodity. And now you're going back to selling the gig. And like Theresa said, gig to gig, hamster wheel. So we have a lot more to share with you. I just want to encourage you as a little midpoint break here. Do book a call. We have some room on the calendar to talk to a few folks. It's doitmarketing.com/call. Let's talk about this process where we're kind of going a little bit deeper into diagnosis, prescription, treatment, and outcome. So think about this like you're a doctor. If you were a doctor someone comes into your office and, sometimes the patients are not educated. Of course, the doctors are educated. And they go, hey, those red pills look really good. And the red pill is your 45-minute keynote speech. I just want to buy a red pill. And you go, okay, cool. Yeah, here's the red pill. The red pill costs $5,500. Three things might happen. Number one, that might not be the solution they're actually after. Number two, you might be solving the wrong problem, right? Because you're guessing, you're throwing a dart on the dartboard, and then they're not going to buy. Number three, and this is the worst part, if you do this diagnosis, prescription, treatment, outcome totally out of order, they're going to think that you're pitching and peddling a solution without listening to them and without understanding them. And you're going to lose the sale that way. Yep. So it is super important to do diagnosis, deep diagnostic, peel the onion, intelligent prospecting, intelligent sales questions. The prescription is your range of things that you might do for them, small, medium, large, super size. The treatment is your delivery of that. But at the end of the day, guess what? They're buying the outcome anyway.
Yep.
You're buying the outcome anyway. So Theresa, where do people screw this up? And we're not going to name names. Tempting.
Of course not.
We're not going to name names because we don't want to get sued. But we've had clients that come in with this very hardcore, I know what your problem is. I know I can fix it. I'm your gal. What the hell's wrong with you? And why doesn't that work?
It's based on assumption, first of all, and you know what assume means. Bottom line, if you don't know what problem you're treating, you're going to prescribe the wrong medicine. And here's the sad part. When you go to the doctor as a patient, you just want it fixed. And oftentimes, remember the busy meeting planner I was talking about a few minutes ago? Sometimes they're just trying to fill the stage. They're trying to fill their speaker roster. They're trying to find solutions. And they're sometimes in a rush. Sometimes they just got to get it done. It's a task that needs to be clicked off the bucket. And they're not necessarily in the world of, okay, what else could be possible? I talked about that a little bit ago. But what I'm saying is they are the ones walking in going, just give me the red pill. But think about the amount of differentiation, professionalism, and expertise you bring when you just slow them down a little bit and say, let's talk about the goals of your meeting. Let's talk about who's in the audience. I have a couple of different ways that I can do this. I can customize my content. I can bring in some engaging exercises, some different things for people to work on so the skills transfer happens. How can I make sure that I do that for you? That is going to be one of those pattern interrupts that the meeting planner is going to go, whoa, I don't get this every day. Normally, somebody's just coming in and hawking pills at me. Here's a red one. Here's a blue one. Here's an ice pack for your head, whatever. You need to be the one who's coming in and saying, what are all of the issues we're addressing and what is the best possible prescription? I will be more than happy to come in and treat that so you get the outcome you need and your clients get the outcomes they need. And having that ability to really slow things down to go faster, David says quite often, this is that opportunity. And what happens is we walk in and go, oh, I got the gig. Woo! Here you go. Here's my program. It's perfect. And it's worked wonderfully for everybody else who's had it. That's not dialed into their specific needs and their particular relevancy. That's just a Band-Aid on the top of a sore that everybody's going to ignore at that point. So get in the weeds, dig into these conversations with these organizers and meeting planners and decision makers, organizations as well. What do you need to happen at the end of the day? Because that's what's going to justify your value. If you do a good job at this part, chances are likely you won't have to negotiate. They're going to see the value and they're going to go, you got it. Yes, I want that. Yes, I'll pay $10,000. Yes, I'll pay $15,000. Hell yes, because you've demonstrated the value up front. So, we have a past client, David, you're going to talk about Michelle, I think, right?
Yes, absolutely right. Well, or you know what? So I said, and just to your point, as you were talking, what you were essentially saying is don't sell the speech, look at it holistically, do the deep dive diagnosis. And do you want to go ahead and tell the boom, easy, done story? And we have a past client from zero. When I say don't sell a speech, she was just checking in with a client to say, well, what's up? How can I help? And then take it from there.
So how can I help? And did the diagnostic, asked the right questions around what's really going on? What are your goals? What are the outcomes? She was totally interested in figuring out a solution, proposed $7,500. And the term she used was boom, easy, done. It was yes on the dotted line. like it was just so clear to them what she was offering, what she was proposing as a solution, not a pitch or a speech, that they said, oh, well, absolutely. That's like a no brainer. And all of these solutions come in small, medium, and super size. They aren't a one fit wonder. One size fits all. That's what I was trying to say.
So Michelle's story is even better. So first of all, she was having a hard time getting even $4,000 or $5,000 fees, just by way of kind of backstory and where she's coming from.
Sure.
The health and wellness space, and she had all kinds of self-limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome. And people look at us and go, "Oh, it's easy for you guys because you guys are selling marketing, you're selling sales, you're selling revenue, you're selling business growth. That's easy. I'm selling health, I'm selling wellness, I'm selling career, I'm selling communication skills, I'm selling honest communication, I'm selling something squishy, I'm selling something soft." Everything has a value if you're talking to the right prospect in the right language. So what Michelle did is she just reconnected with a past client, not to pitch them anything, like genuinely not to pitch them anything. It was a check-in call. How's it going? How can I help? What are you working on? What's going on since our last program? And then the person just started talking and spilling and saying, well, we got a little bit of problem with this, and this isn't so great, and we could really use some help with this. And then Michelle didn't even pitch a program. What the client said is, do you think you could help us with that? And Michelle goes, yeah, I think I probably could. What would that look like? Well, hang on, right? She didn't take that first piece of bait. Tell me more. Tell me more about that. And what else? And what else? And what else? Peel the onion, dig, probe, uncover, figure out what's the need behind the need, what's the problem behind the problem, right? Once we establish there's this big, huge problem below the waterline under the iceberg, when she said, well, how much is it? We have a little template and formula about establish value before talking about the fee. She did that, and it was effortless. 70, and in her own words, we have a testimonial that we do in some of our webinars. In her own words, reconnecting to help and serve with no agenda, got a gig. It was 3 months down the road, $7,500, boom, easy, done. And she didn't even call to sell anything. So when I say negotiate, we're talking about negotiating, upselling, what's on your upsell menu. Sometimes just your caring and your concern for a client or for a new prospect, that will help you negotiate from 0 up to 7,500 because you have what they need if you followed that diagnosis, prescription, treatment, outcome formula. And like Theresa said, your solutions might come in a variety of flavors, keynote, full day, 90-day coaching program, 6-month leadership development, 3-year, bank consulting program, whatever it is that you do, small, medium, large, and extra large. The key really is to listen and probe.
Oh,
listen and probe.
Yes.
Listen, take it away on the listening, because this is something that we just cannot say often enough. Listen. How does that work?
I think so many of us, when we are not aware of how to do this correctly, go in just waiting to say, to tell, to share. So, and bottom line, we're passionate about our stuff, right? We're passionate about our topic and our thought leadership, and we've spent years crafting this. We can't wait to tell people. The problem is we don't wait long enough to hear how we need to apply what it is that we know. So you ask a question, and the second problem that I see quite often is, I've got a list of questions, I'm ready. So you've done some preparation. You are wanting to probe. You are going into those conversations wanting to know the details, but you're so ready to go to the next question, you give no regard and no time to listen to the response of the first question. So a question's asked and you listen. You listen to what's said. You listen to what's not said. You listen for implied meanings. You listen for cause and effect. So, she said this as a statement, but I wonder what that means. So I'm back to, curiosity of a 2-year-old. What is going on with that thing they just said? Then it's those levels of questions. You go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. Sometimes you don't leave the first question. You're just asking a bunch of follow-up questions about getting more context, getting more understanding about what that actually means. What are the ramifications, the implications that if they don't fix it, how long have they been suffering from it? What's going on? And listen, really, really key into what they're saying and what they're not saying. read body language, understand your client in that moment so you can then prescribe. Because until you have truly listened, you don't know what to prescribe. You might have a one size fits all, but it won't necessarily fit if you've listened to the inside meanings of what they're saying. So you might have questions, but I invite you to listen to every answer and be ready to ask follow-up questions that never made it onto your list. Radical listening is key.
And then we have another client. I'd love you to tell this story because you were so proud of her yesterday. Our other Susan, who's active in our program now, she's actually in our Platinum program, which is our year-long program. She went into a meeting a little bit terrified. And what do I pitch? What do I say? What do I talk about? And talk about how you kind of coached her through that and then what the outcome was when she had the meeting.
So questions like, how long should I stay in? How long should I ask questions? How much time should I spend sharing my solution? And the answer to that is you stay in questions until you know exactly what the problem is and you know exactly how to solve it. If it's but they've only allocated 20 minutes, then use all 20 minutes and reschedule later if you have to. Because if they're engaged and you are totally in tune with them, they'll come back. They won't want to get off the phone and they'll give you more time or they'll schedule again. But the bottom line is, I said, go in with radical curiosity. Now, she was saying, I had made a suggestion of something that might be happening. I gave her an example of a question and she answered the question as if she were her client. I said, no. There are going to be questions that you ask that you know the answers to, and then there's going to be questions that you don't. Two things. Ask the ones you know the answers to because you need to test and make sure that the assumption you're operating under is actually true for that particular client. But number two, if you don't know the answer to that question, take the pressure off yourself from having to know everything in that conversation. Clients love it when you are humble enough to not know the answer. Go in and let them be the expert and tell you their situation. It goes back to what David was saying earlier. We've had some clients that have said, I know your problem and I'm going to fix it. And every client will go, you don't know me, homie. You don't know me. I'm different. Of course they are. Every client is going to be different. So go in with full-on questions that are absolutely, some you know how to answer, but you're just checking in. Some you don't know the answers, and look at the amount of information you're going to gather for future conversations. But most importantly, all of that's going to mix together with a very, very perfectly fit, relevant solution to that client's problems, which is of the most value to them. She emailed us after this call. Oh my God, I never knew how easy this could be, because she didn't have to pitch herself. This is where sales no longer becomes sales. This is just a discovery conversation. This is just you and me having a conversation. I don't know if I can be a resource or not, but let's spend 10 minutes and find out together. So she did a fantastic job. She's totally on fire. And she sees now how easy it can be if you rely on questions and radical listening and prescribe what's the right fit. Don't retrofit what you think is the right answer.
Yeah, for sure. And she had the prospect talking for an hour?
An hour. He originally booked a 20-minute call. I got 20 minutes. All right, cool. An hour on the phone. That's what I mean. If they're engaged and if they truly feel, A, they're being heard, B, they truly feel your intention of really wanting to help and be a solution provider, they will stay on the phone with you as long as it takes.
Yeah, absolutely right. And another benefit of never pitching is that sometimes the solution that they need is much larger than the solution they think they want.
Oh gosh, yes.
So let me tell you just a quick funny story. I had a phone, this is about 3-4 years ago by now, but someone called me up, local company. They had a $5,000 keynote and they had a sales team meeting and they wanted me to come and keynote the sales team meeting. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a sales speaker. I'm a marketing speaker. So I said to the guy, I said, would you spend any time on my website? He goes, yeah. I said, you see the word sales anywhere on my website? The guy goes, no. But, I like your stuff. I read your blog and, you're local. And I just thought, I'd reach out. Talked to him for a grand total of 5 minutes. I said, okay, you know what? I love you. I appreciate you. I'm not your guy. Let me connect you to my friend Scott, because my friend Scott is a fantastic sales trainer and sales speaker. So I tee up Scott for this $5,000 local keynote. And about a week goes by. I don't hear anything. And I get a phone call from Scott. Scott says, oh, David, that referral. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Holy smokes, that was the biggest piece of business in my company's history. I said, whoa, dude. The guy called me for a $5,000 keynote. I teed you up for a $5,000 keynote. Please don't tell me that a $5,000 speech is the biggest deal in your company's history. He goes, no, no, no. The guy called and he wanted a $5,000 speech. And I started asking some questions. I said, well, tell me about the sales meeting. Tell me about your sales team. Tell me about what you're hoping to get out of the sales meeting for your sales team. Tell me about, who's on the sales team. Well, I got 2 guys that are doing great, 2 that are sort of mediocre, and, 2 that need to be fired. I probably have to replace them. I hate recruiting. I hate hiring. The whole thing's kind of a hot mess. We're behind on our numbers. We're behind on our quota. Just woe is me, pain, problem, issue. All Scott was doing. And what else? And what else? And what else? By the end of the conversation, he said, well, I don't think you need a $5,000 speech. And here's the negotiating tip. One of my favorite lines that I gave Scott and that Scott uses to this day, and a lot of our clients use to this day, is, wow, I'm good, but I'm not that good. That does not sound like something that we can solve in a 45-minute keynote. Why don't we talk about some ways to actually solve your problem? So the $5,000 speech in the course of that very brief diagnostic prescribing conversation was, how about I come alongside you? We do sales training for a year for this underperforming team. We get the 2 rock stars to be even better rock stars. It turns out once he asked some questions, they weren't rock stars. They were like meeting quota. So they were just like barely okay. They were not rock stars, but relatively they were rock stars. Let's coach the 2 medium guys to become rock stars like the first 2. Let's fire the bottom 2. I will help you recruit and hire, because Scott also does sales recruiting and sales hiring. And then you'll just pay me $5,000 a month for the next 12 months. And bonus, I'll throw in that sales meeting for free. So we signed the agreement for a $60,000 year-long contract. We'll still do the sales meeting. I'll still come and do your keynote, no extra charge. The guy says, really? Really? Yes, done. Boom. $5,000 to $60,000, not because he was pitching or peddling, but because he wanted to fix the actual problem. Fix the actual problem, my friends. This isn't even negotiating, really. It's almost like, stop misdiagnosing that if you have what's the saying? If you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Everyone's got like the keynote hammer. Everyone's got the training day hammer. Everyone's got the consulting or coaching hammer. And they go, I got to find my next nail. Guys, start building houses. Start building houses. Deploy all the tools that are in your arsenal. Let's figure out what is small, what is medium, what is large, what is extra large, what is supersize in your world. And you really have to stop pitching. So here's the soundbite from a negotiating standpoint, even from a trusted advisor standpoint. It's really about listen for what they want and then help them with what you discover that they need. Okay? Do not assume, and Theresa just hit it totally on the head. We've got prospects that are trying to do 2 sales at once. They're trying to sell the problem that they know the prospect has, and then they're trying to sell their solution as the only solution that prospect needs. Totally wrong, false, and it does not work. So what we're talking about is these people that are doing this are struggling. They're struggling, they're flailing, they're sending out 600 emails, they're getting no responses, they're leaving voicemails that go into voicemail hell, voicemail black hole, because they're not connecting. They're not diagnosing. Right. They're not building relationship. They're not building value. So if you'd like to build relationship, if you'd like to build value, if you'd like to stop doing the crazy stuff that doesn't work and start doing the smart stuff that does work, let's wrap up with just a couple of minutes here of some recap, Theresa. And then if you'd like to talk to our team about how you can dial in all of this that we've been talking about so that you're in a position to negotiate bigger, better, faster, stronger. What that means is you've got your upsell menu, you've got your articulation distinction, you've got your talk tracks, you've got your messaging, your packaging, the who you serve and what you sell to help solve their problems. The upsell menu's posted on your wall, and there's no more pitching. It's now asking, probing, serving, and helping. If you want that kind of speaking-driven business, let's map out a plan for you when you book a call. And it's doitmarketing.com/call. Theresa, what else? Any other kind of final points about just negotiating and stop being a slimy pitch person and start being a real trusted partner and trusted advisor?
It doesn't matter what you're selling in any industry that is creating sales and in business, they don't like the prospecting process, but it's necessary and it's a part of the process. You minimize the heaviness of that prospecting when you negotiate accordingly for those opportunities that you have good conversations. The fewer that you have to outreach to because you're only doing $4,000 and you're only doing $3,000 here and you're only doing $5,000 there and you're having to repeat the process, that requires more outreach, more effort, more time. But if you took just 4 or 5 of those and turned them into $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 contracts, or like Susan did, $140,000, you wouldn't need to do that many more phone calls for the year if you're in fourth quarter. Just look at this realistically, make the most of every conversation and leverage that for the best possible outcome for you and your client. So, summarizing, looking at cross-selling and upselling, how can you offer another product in the guise of helping your client? Diagnose, prescribe, treat, and then go for the outcome, demonstrate that to them. Listen for the real needs, listen to what they want, and help them shape a plan of what will serve their greatest need. And lastly, do this every single time you have a negotiating conversation. Negotiate up, not down, bring value, focus on solutions, and you'll have a viable speaking career, bar none.
That's it. So that's negotiating for speakers and coaches and trainers, consultants and facilitators and workshop leaders and info marketers and online course creators and everybody, for freaking heaven's sake, everybody. What we talked about, I don't care if you're selling accounting services. I don't care if you're selling catering. This process that we talk about works for everyone because it's value first. Value first. You ask before you tell, right? You connect before you pitch, and then they come to you. They're like, oh my gosh, now that you know our problem so thoroughly and so completely, how can you help us? Please. They're going to beg you. They're going to say, oh, how do we adopt you? How do we make you our little in-house puppy? And the in-house puppies, they get $60,000 contracts. They get $7,500 speaking gigs. They get $140,000 10 months of trips to Sweden. I mean, this is crazy. The more that you pitch, the more that you sell, the more you commoditize yourself. The more,
and you know what
we're talking about today, you separate yourself from the crowd of goofballs. Theresa, what else?
I was just going to say, and for everyone who's watching this live and on the replay, let me assure you from our clients' mouths and our own, this gets to be a lot more fun when we can close bigger deals and work just a little bit less. We already have fun on stage. We already have fun doing what we do. But man, does it get a lot more fun and enjoyable when you know that you can close these larger contracts and not feel so salesy in the process. You remove that pitching, and that will be the key for true connection. And you might even make a few friends out of the deal.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and let me also talk just a little bit, because I know people like looking at that link. They're going, doitmarketing.com/call. Do these guys kind of walk their talk, or is this going to be like a veiled sales pitch? Is it going to be like weird pressure? Are we going to be put in a headlock and go, come here, you, buy our stuff? And Theresa, is it like that?
No, not at all. We're going to ask questions you probably haven't considered yet. We're going to ask you questions that you'll have answers for that maybe are the first answers you've had because you haven't thought about it this way. We're going to figure out where you are and where you want to go and figure out what does it look like to get there? What's the first few marching orders to get there? And we're going to have a conversation. We drink our own Kool-Aid around here, by the way. So we are truly dedicated to finding out your specific needs, where you are. And look, not every client is ready to work with us, the right fit to work with us. So there's no veiled sales pitch here. This is truly a conversation. What I hear from my clients on a consistent basis is the best 45 minutes you'll spend thinking about your business. And going into 2019, this is probably the time to start thinking about what we're going to do differently to make it next year not a repeat of this year.
Different, better, cooler, faster, smarter. Or even if you had a decent year. You don't want to plateau. So we work with folks going from 0 to 60 miles an hour in their business. We take folks that are going 60 miles an hour and take them to 100.
That's
right. If you want our help, I mean, this is the exact cycle that we just talked about today, right? We want to help you. We want to give you
Yes.
some ideas. We want to map out a path and a plan for you. If you go, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, can you help me do this? We can talk about that.
Absolutely.
And like Theresa said, maybe it's a good fit, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a good fit, but it's not time. Maybe it's not your time right now, and that's cool too. We're good, man. We're good. We're not pitching and peddling and slimy, weird pressure tactics kind of people either, because we hate that. And what we teach our clients is don't do that. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.